15 years ago, I walked into a CrossFit gym for the first time, and it completely changed my life. I became obsessed with coaching, with movement, and with helping others. After over a decade of owning a gym and coaching thousands of athletes in person and online, I realized that there was something missing. There was some people that would get great results, be consistent, and really excel. And then there was others that just wouldn't, and something was missing. That's when I discovered a new way to look at your movement and your training in order to make continuous progress across all movements. What if I told you that every functional movement just boils down to these 6 basic patterns and 6 basic positions, and if you can master those, then you can improve across all movements simultaneously? I remember watching members struggle with complex movements, and it's not that they are not strong enough or capable enough or trying hard enough to do the movements. It's that they really hadn't built the requisite strength in the patterns and strength in the positions that they needed to be able to accomplish the higher skill movements. Every movement, from burpees to snatches to high skill gymnastics movements, all break down into these same positions and patterns. Once you understand this, you will never look at movement the same way again. So I created the table of positions and patterns, and this one just came in the mail today. This is a way that you can understand all functional movement and how they relate to each other. This is really important because if you can recognize the similarities and the differences between these movements, and when you're training, understand that you are doing no more than training the pattern and the position, then you can improve across movements very rapidly. On this table, we have 6 positions and 6 patterns. Positions are static. They're the place that you will start or end a movement. We have neutral, arch, hollow, squat, overhead, and front rack position. So those are going to be the main positions that we'll look at in fitness, and a lot of these movements share multiple positions. The patterns that we have are active, and that's how you're moving from position to position. So we have a jump pattern, a pull pattern, a press pattern, a lunge pattern, a squat pattern, and a hinge pattern. Each one of these patterns is unique in the way that they are used to express fitness, and combining them is how we can create more complex and higher skill movements. The tiles in this table are laid out so that you can get a lot of information about the movement just at a glance. On the top left-hand side of the tile, you'll see the patterns that are involved in the movement. On the bottom right-hand side of the tile, you will see all of the positions that are involved in the movement. You'll see the name and an abbreviation of the movement in the center of the tile. If there's a line underneath, it is a cyclical conditioning movement, which means that we can use it sort of for cardio. Any of the movements that are surrounded by this red box are going to be movements that have external load. And any of the movements that are in inverted colors are going to be our inverted movements. The essential movements are listed in this top row, which are running, burpees, pull-ups, push-ups, lunges, squats, and deadlifts. Those are essential for life, and they're things that everybody needs to be able to do. And they're also the foundation for a lot of other movements that we have. So once you master those, then we can kind of add more skill or more complexity to the movement and do more fun and crazier things with our bodies. The movements are organized in vertical columns based on the patterns that they share, and they're organized in horizontal rows based on their complexity and their skill. So movements that are higher up on the table are going to require less skill, and movements that are lower on the table are going to require more skill. And remember, when we're talking about skill, we're talking about a neurological adaptation of fitness. Skill is in your brain. It's teaching your brain to tell your body what to do. A lot of people are strong enough or mobile enough to be able to do some of the higher level movements, but they can't quite unlock them, not because of their physical ability, but because of their neurological ability. So we need to make sure that the pattern, especially at the base level, is sound before we start to add in more complexity to those movement patterns. So you can use this table to help determine the best use of your time in training. You can highlight what your weak areas are and see those across movements. For example, let's say that you are doing squat cleans, and when you get to your heaviest load, you fail not because the weight is too heavy for you to stand up with your legs, but you aren't able to receive the bar in a good position so that you can stand it up. So if you can make progress towards a better front rack position, not only will you be able to PR your clean, but your efficiency in the thruster will go up, your efficiency with the wall ball will go up, your clean and jerk will go up. Everything that requires a front rack position will improve because you made progress on that front rack position. Now, the caveat to this is that you need to train with that concept in mind. So anytime you feel this rack shape in this front rack position in your training and in your movements, you need to think, oh, I'm training the front rack here. And you need to be very aware of what you're doing. If there's certain things that you don't struggle with, turn your brain off, go hard, just do the reps, get the movement done. But if you blindly just move through your training, then that is where people don't make progress. That's where people start to remain stagnant for years, and that's where they struggle to get to the higher level movements and usually end up injured. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said, oh, I'm not built for this, or I'm not the type of person that can do X movement, and you just kind of commit to never being able to do it? I hear this all the time. Athletes telling themselves that they're not coordinated enough, or that they're not fit enough, or that their genetics don't work, or that they're too old. But the reality is that it just comes down to these fundamental patterns and positions, and there is always a weak link somewhere in that chain. With the higher, more complex movements, sometimes there's multiple patterns and multiple positions that need to be improved for you to make progress. But if you can build the foundational stuff first, then everything else will get better on top of it. Let me share something pretty powerful with you. Every single person that has achieved their fitness goals was at one point in the exact same position as you are, thinking the same things, feeling the same way. The only difference is they discovered what actually moves the needle forward. See, when you're just getting your workout in, you're kind of mindless or following some random program, you are just hoping that progress happens by accident. But what if I told you there is a systematic way that you can develop all of these movements in the right order so that you don't get stuck when you're trying to work towards the next one, and so that you are strong enough to be able to complete them without getting injured? What if your struggles aren't because you lack ability or you're not genetically gifted enough, but what if you're just not doing things in the right way? What if you're actually closer to achieving your goals than you think? You're just missing this one piece. What if you could make more progress in the next few months by fixing this than you have in the past few years? And I've seen it happen countless times in person and online. People who thought that they were stuck and at a plateau, but they end up breaking through it, not by training harder, but by just training smarter. The fitness industry has kind of conditioned you to believe that it requires more to improve, more complexity, more programs, more training, more volume. But the reality is that's just not true. I have people coming up to me at competitions and in my DMs asking me how we're making progress so quickly. And the reality is that we've stripped away the complexity. You don't need a special custom program. You don't need more hours of private training. You don't need more years to figure it out. What you need is understanding of how all of these movements work at a foundational level and how they all relate to each other. How much time you spent doing workouts that didn't get you any result, or how much money you've spent on coaching that didn't really fix your problems. What if the answer has been simple all along? Yes, this requires consistency. Yes, this requires dedication. But for the first time, you'll understand what you're working towards and why. Inside Technique Team, we're rebuilding the standard. No more hoping that progress happens by accident, no more just going through the motions, and no more falling victim to low standard coaching. We just focus on what works, developing these foundational positions and patterns, and everything else falls into place. Now you understand our system and you see how these patterns and positions help unlock everything else. If you need help implementing this into your training, you know where to find me. The link will be down in the description, rxtechnique.com. Remember, this isn't about doing more, it's about doing what works. And now you know exactly what that is.